What is wrong with you people?
Nothing to see here.
I saw the movie on Wednesday, really fell in love with it. Like neo-western, action, absurdist comedy, kind of had everything. So I'm really looking forward to hearing people's thoughts on that.
Neo-western.
Yeah.
That is what Ben Wheatley, the director, said numerous times. This is my western, he said. He's made many films, as you know.
Yes, yeah. Incredible director.
And he does horror and comedy and action and everything. But this, he said, this is my western.
Yeah, it kind of felt like Hot Fuzz meets John Wick meets High Noon. Like
High Plains Drifter.
Yeah.
Bad Day, Black Rocks, Stepford Wives. It's a love letter to all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3. Yeah. And one of the reasons this struck me, there's something about the rewarding value of that story, how rewarding it is to an audience. And I feel this movie has that. But additionally, not many films have this many character parts that all have an operative part of the story. So all the people in town that you meet make choices. They're, characters that are secondary characters. You wouldn't usually give them that kind of agency within a story, but that's true in Pelham, and it's true in this film.
Yeah, it's not just Ulysses.
It's not just Ulysses versus one bad guy, and then they go at it.
And in turn, the town of Normal feels lived in. And, So I wanted to ask, so Bob, Ulysses feels very understated and reserved compared to some other characters you played, like Saul and things like that. Which kind of character do you enjoy playing more, and which do you find to be more difficult? That more eccentric or more reserved?
I probably find Ulysses more like me, so he's easier to play. He's a guy who's seen a lot of life. He's kind of back on his heels. He's unsure of himself, and he is just watching people and trying to make the right choice. And sort of, in the case of Ulysses, he's people often learn the wrong lesson, or they overlearn a lesson. And in his case, he's overlearned skepticism of his own instincts. So he's in this town, Normal. He's seeing all these clues that don't add up, but he's just kind of turning away from all of them. And then circumstances put him right smack in the middle of what's wrong in this town.
Yeah.
And it's too late to have a graceful maneuver out of it. And so I relate to him. I relate to how he talks to people. I relate to how he looks at the world. I like this guy. I like everything about him.
Yeah, he's such a compelling lead.
Yeah.
Derek, I want to ask you as well, I found the first act to be particularly compelling, and I really appreciated how you were unafraid to pace the film rather slowly, which we don't always see. I really enjoyed that seeping in the atmosphere. How did you approach the pacing of this film in terms of the slower first act and then the bombastic kind of switch?
Well, when it comes to pacing, we did that on the first Nobody as well, as having the longer first act, because you see the wick being lit, right? And it's going towards that dynamite in the distance.
By the way, the Wick, John Wick.
Boom.
He wrote John Wick. And people often say John Wick is just action from beginning to end.
But it's got a long first act.
That's not true.
You give a shit.
The first John Wick has how long is it?
It's like a good 25 minutes, yeah.
You really care about the dog, everything.
It takes a while before shit goes south.
But once it goes, you're into it. And the thing in working on this with Bob is realizing that it's not just Ulysses' story. Like you could argue that Deputy Mike might think he's the main character. Like the mayor thinks he's the main character. And we wanted to give each of them flesh on a bone, so that when things go south, you feel, even when you're chuckling at certain characters' demise, that there are real stakes in this world. and that it's grounded in yet that 15% surreal, which is a joy to create and a joy to watch now.
Yeah, and you still feel that tension too.
Yeah.
I heard that in your work on the film that the dialogue, rather than adding dialogue over the process of the writing process, that you actually subtracted dialogue.
Do I subtract more or add more? I subtract, don't I?
You know, a lot of times, like the way I talk is we'll have the script and then it gets greenlit, and then 2 weeks before prep, you kind of go through and you render down. You know, like is there repetition, all that kind of thing. But then on the day of, you know, Bob and I have a shorthand where I'll get notes from him like 15 minutes before shooting. Everyone panics, but we know what we're doing. And then during the scene, Bob will chuckle going, hey, I want to do it this way. And then Ben says, why don't you do it this way? And I go, oh. And then we're just kind of drafting off of trying to find the best idea. But one of the most interesting things is after the first week of shooting, Ben called me and he said, look, I don't know how to say this, but the movie's coming out 15% darker. And I was like, oh, I know what that means. You know, and then you go through the script going, you got to take out this quip, but then it becomes, instead of a line, a humorous look, right? And that's what we understood of going, instead of saying that line, give that look or do that thing, because we're both huge fans of the Buster Keatons of the world, right? The Harold Lloyds of going, that speaks volumes.
By the way, another movie I talk about when this movie is High Plains Drifter, Clint Eastwood film.
Phenomenal.
And I don't know if you've seen it recently, but it's funny.
Yeah, it's good.
That's the whole town kind of hates him, and then they need his help, and then he has to use them they have to play their part. And there was a moment or two in the movie Normal where Ben Wheatley, I was doing my lines, and Ben just came up beside me and said, just do Clint Eastwood.
What a direction.